From Nebraska's trusted news source, this is Channel 8 News at 5.
Coming up tonight, the Nebraska State Patrol ramps up its search for a missing woman. Plus,
they're like family. I love those people. Thank God for those people.
An immense amount of gratitude for the nurses who saved his life.
But first, an update on some breaking news from last night. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We first brought you this story last night at 10 o'clock.
A business on West O Street caught on fire, went up in flames. It took hours for firefighters to put out the blaze. Channel 8's Yosef Nasser joins us live from the scene with the latest. Yosef.
Good evening, Rod and Megan. I'm here outside of that business. That's Carroll Construction Company. As we speak, if you look over my shoulders, crews are working to board up some of the damaged exterior. Of course, we were first on the scene here last night at 10 p.m. when this place was engulfed by flames. Let's take a look at some of those images from last night. Now, here's a look at the scene overnight. Crews battled the fire into Thursday morning. You're also going to see some of what we're seeing today. I actually had a chance to speak with the manager of the warehouse. Now, he opted not to speak on camera with me, but he does tell me that they can't even get inside the building. What they're doing right now is working to secure the perimeter inside the building. They do know that there's a lot of heat, smoke, and water damage. Emergency crews were actually alerted to the fire last night by a passerby vehicle. Now, interestingly, Carroll is open today. What they're doing is they're doing a lot of their business from right here with the equipment that was not damaged, serving their clients as best they can. Now, the two things we don't know are the cause of the fire and the cost of the damage, but I can tell you that the building is a total loss. Channel 8 reached out to the city's chief fire inspector, who tells us that we asked if the damages were over $1 million. His response, quote, "It's going to be high." As for the manager, he tells me it's going to be a long process, but we're going to keep going. Reporting here in Lincoln, West Lincoln, I'm Yosef Nasser, Channel 8 News.
All right, thanks for the update, Yosef. We'll talk to you later. Now to an update on a big fire that happened in Hastings last week.
We now know what caused that fire that destroyed Burt's Pharmacy and the Hastings Visitor Center. The fire marshal's office says the fire was accidental and related to the electrical wiring in a neon sign at the pharmacy. Damage is estimated at over $1 million for the pharmacy and the visitor center. Officials credited smoke alarms and a tenant in a nearby apartment building for alerting authorities. After almost 6 weeks in the hospital with COVID-19, a Lincoln man has made quite the recovery.
He was back in the hospital today, but this time it was for a special surprise. Channel 8's Macy Meyer joins us now with this heartwarming story. Macy.
54-year-old Jeff Walker has been described as a miracle patient. His outlook was grim, but he beat the odds, and he says it's all thanks to his nurses. Applause filled the room as Jeff Walker returned to CHI Health St. Elizabeth on Thursday morning.
I think I audibly said it out loud. Oh my gosh, he looks so good.
It's the same hospital where he spent more than 6 weeks fighting for his life. Jeff says he was as healthy as can be, but hadn't yet got his vaccine before he tested positive for COVID-19 in November of 2021. He was hospitalized, sent to the ICU, and eventually put on a ventilator.
Towards the end when I checked out, but she told me in my home, she said, there was a bunch of us didn't think you were going to make it past New Year's. We did not expect to see you after New Year's.
With his wife Janelle by his side the entire way and nurses working day in and day out, Jeff began to get better and would become known as a miracle patient.
And I did take care of him further on through all the other stages with him getting his trach and everything, and it was really great to see him actually thrive after getting his trach, because in the beginning it was really touch and go with him.
Now, as he continues down his road to recovery, he wanted to make sure the nurses who worked so hard to keep him alive knew they were appreciated.
They became an extended family because they cared for me. And like I told them, I said, you know, it sounds like a cliche, it sounds like something I dreamt up, but it just came to me the other day when I was thinking about this. They did. They saw me at my worst, and I saw them at their best.
For the nurses who have spent the last 2 years taking care of thousands of patients during some of their darkest times, a hug, some cookies, and a heartwarming thank you goes a long way.
We don't get it as often as we wish we would. November and December was a really hard time for a lot of us. We lost a lot of people. We don't get to see a lot of success stories, so it's really great to see somebody come back and actually acknowledge the work that we put in for them.
Jeff says he will forever be grateful for all the hard work the nurses and doctors did during his time in the hospital. He said he'd even like to make this thank you an annual tradition.
All right, thank you so much, Macy, and yes, thank you to all the nurses and other medical professionals out there. In other news now, a large-scale search is happening today for a missing Nebraska woman.
She's been missing since last June, and the State Patrol investigators say they believe she could be the victim of a crime. NSP is searching for Linda Dillard in a state wildlife area near Table Rock. That's in southeast Nebraska. Now, several agencies from Nebraska and Kansas are helping in this search, which will continue until Saturday. Linda Dillard was last seen in the Table Rock area on June 16th of 2021. A Papillion man is now officially charged with neglecting more than 600 animals.
The animals were found in his home back in December. Edward Lubin was arrested on 7 felony charges. Today, he appeared in court and did post bail. Officials say 665 animals were recovered from his home, including exotic birds, reptiles, and mammals, just to name a few. 70 of the animals were found dead, and 2 of them had to be euthanized. Lubin is back in court on April 12th. Senators are working to approve a $1.5 billion budget.
There are 3 budget bills, and each one is expected to be debated for hours. One of the biggest things debated on today was related to the $155 million going to build a new state penitentiary. Some senators feel that money could be going to help with overcrowding and programmings instead to help those prisoners from reoffending.
The 920 issue has been with us for at least 1 decade, if not longer. Governor Heineman blew the issue off when he was governor. And unfortunately, in Governor Ricketts' 8 years, we've let the issue languish as well.
By 920, he's referring to a bill that would change criminal justice provisions. It's a separate bill that still needs to be debated and voted on. The speaker said he still thinks they have time this session to work through those issues, but the deadline to finalize the budget is March 29th. Now to the latest on the governor's race in Nebraska. 4
GOP candidates will take part in an hour-long debate tonight. In fact, it starts at 7 o'clock. It is hosted by Nebraska Public Media. The 4 include Charles Herbster, Brett Lindstrom, Teresa Thibodeau, and Breland Ridenour. Jim Pillen will not be there. His campaign says he has a scheduling conflict for this one, but will also skip all future debates. That has raised some interesting topics amongst the other candidates. We're going to have much more on this debate and what they said tonight at 10 o'clock. Also an update now on the Jeff Fortenberry corruption trial.
Closing arguments are expected today with the case then possibly going to a California jury. Fortenberry is accused of accepting and trying to cover up $30,000 in campaign contributions from a foreigner, which is against the law. Today in closing arguments, prosecutors maintain that Fortenberry lied several times to investigators. But the defense says Fortenberry was set up by the FBI and did not know the money was illegal. We're going to have an update on this case tonight at 6 o'clock. On a much lighter note, attention to all you Broadway fans out there.
That's right. The Lead Center announced its Broadway shows for the 2022-23 season.
We're just so excited that Lincoln loves Broadway and that this program is growing, and we can't wait for this upcoming season as well as an amazing future ahead for Broadway and Lincoln.
This next season, the Lead Center is thrilled to be bringing 5 shows for their Broadway subscription package. They are Chicago, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Legally Blonde, Jagged Little Pill, and Hamilton.
Now, keep in mind, those Hamilton tickets are only available to Broadway season subscribers. They're also, though, bringing other Broadway shows next season, like On Your Feet, Madagascar, The Book of Mormon, and finally, Stomp.
All right, sounds like quite the lineup. And let's talk about our weather now with Chief Meteorologist John Dissauer. This evening we're talking about lightning safety, John.
That's right, yeah. We're continuing on about the Severe Weather Awareness Week. And tonight we're going to discuss lightning safety tips. And of course, you can get more of those. I've got an article listed on our website. You can go to the weather page, scroll down, and you'll see it there. But you may have heard the saying, when thunder roars, go indoors. And there's a good reason for that. Because thunder oftentimes is going to be your initial alert that there is lightning within the area. You know, I've seen lightning strikes happen 40 to as much as 60 miles ahead of a thunderstorm. And unfortunately, I've seen reports of where it has struck softball players. And unfortunately, somebody died back in Indiana back in the 2000s because of that, with the thunderstorm still being 60 miles away. So whenever you hear thunder, you need to get indoors, stop all activities, seek shelter in a building or a hardtop vehicle. And here's the key. You need to wait 30 minutes after the last time you've heard thunder or have seen lightning before you resume activities. That's the one thing a lot of people don't want to do. But again, we do that, and we stress that to try to keep you and your family safe. Here's a live look right now from Beatrice. No lightning to deal with today. We've got cloudy skies. We are starting to see some breaks in the clouds as we look off to the south and west from Schoen's Roofing. And as we take you to a live look right now from Lincoln, still a lot of these low clouds have been plaguing us all day long. As you go further to the west, though, there's been more in the way of some sunshine, especially out towards the Tri-Cities. We're not too far from seeing some sunshine in Lincoln, and I think we'll squeeze out just a little bit of sun before it sets, just before 8 o'clock this evening. Wider view showing you how they've got a lot of sunshine out over the western portion of the state. And take a look at the temperature spread. It's nearly 20 degrees from Nebraska City to 60 degrees in Kearney, and Lincoln stuck in between. It's sitting at 47 degrees, which is the high temperature for the day. For the rest of this evening, 48 degrees by 6, 44 by 8. Skies clearing for the overnight. We'll see our temperatures dropping into the upper 20s to low 30s tomorrow morning. We've got some warmer temperatures coming our way because we didn't warm much today at all in the capital city. We'll talk about just how warm it gets, and also we do have a threat for some thunderstorms in our 10-day forecast. We'll have that coming up in my Storm Alert Team forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, John. International news now. President Biden is in Brussels for several urgent summits with top U.S. allies.
He announced additional sanctions against Russia and more aid for Ukraine, including welcoming Ukrainian refugees to the U.S. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has the latest from Washington.
After a day of high-stakes emergency summits between the U.S. and key allies in Brussels, a show of unity and support for Ukraine.
NATO has never been more united than it is today. Putin is getting exactly the opposite what he intended to have as a consequence of going into Ukraine.
President Biden repeated his opposition to directly engaging in a military conflict with Russia. But he did say the U.S. will respond if Russian President Putin uses chemical or biological weapons to attack Ukraine.
We would respond. We would respond if he uses it. The nature of the response would depend on the nature of the use.
In a coordinated move, the U.S., EU, and G7 nations announced new sanctions targeting Russian elites, parliament, defense firms, and the country's central bank. And President Biden says the U.S. will welcome up to 100,000 Ukrainian refugees without providing additional details. Still, Ukrainian President Zelensky says what his country really needs is more firepower, urging NATO to provide just 1% of its planes and tanks.
After such a war against Russia, please never tell us that our army does not meet NATO standards.
As the war enters its second month, outgunned Ukrainian forces remain determined to repel Russia's advance. Ukraine's Navy today claiming it destroyed a Russian ship near a critical Russian-occupied port city in the southern part of the country. U.S. defense officials say the Russian military east of Kyiv has been pushed back to 34 miles outside of the capital. And to the north, the Russians are now in defensive positions.
President Biden says he supports removing Russia from the G20 group of nations as punishment for its invasion of Ukraine. The president also added that he made very clear to Chinese President Xi China will face consequences if it provides military support to the Kremlin. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
And speaking of China, after the break, we're going to have the latest on that mysterious plane crash there, as investigators are one step closer to figuring out why the plane crashed into the mountainside.
That and your full forecast after the break. Stay with us.
Now to that puzzling plane crash in China. Investigators are examining the cockpit voice recorder from the jet that plunged into a mountainside with 132 people on board.
No survivors have been found, and recovery crews are returning to the muddy fields searching for a second black box. ABC's Morgan Norwood has the latest.
As crews continue to comb through the wreckage in southern China, investigators are one step closer in their search for answers into why that Boeing 737-800 plunged from the sky and crashed into the mountainside. Officials today announcing that a lab in Beijing is now working to repair and analyze the information from the black box, the cockpit recorder found in the rubble.
We got to know why the crew decided to do an emergency descent, if that's what they did.
Investigators are still searching for the second recorder that stores flight data, including airspeed, altitude, and wing flap positions. But early information shows the plane plunged from 29,000 feet to 8,000, leveled off, and then went into a free fall, then exploding into flames. Air traffic control noticed the drop in altitude, calling the crew repeatedly, but getting no answer. U.S. intelligence doesn't have a clear theory on what led to the crash, but a source telling ABC News they're not ruling anything out, including a possible intentional downing.
What bothers me here is the rate of descent. It's over 10,000 feet per minute, which seems extraordinarily high even for emergency descent.
As a precaution, China Eastern Airlines grounded its entire fleet of Boeing 737-800s, members of NTSB, FAA, and Boeing, all joining the investigation.
And officials in China said they plan to invite those agencies in once the on-site recovery and investigation is complete. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Now, your Storm Alert Team forecast with Chief Meteorologist John Dessauer.
Just as advertised last night, we've been stuck with some low clouds across portions of southeast Nebraska throughout the day, and that has really held our temperatures down. They've been stubborn to break, but we are starting to see some signs of that beginning to happen. Now, the Tri-Cities, you're talking what clouds, because you've seen a lot of sunshine throughout the day. But here's the reason we've been stuck with these clouds, especially over the Lincoln area. Temperatures typically, as you go up in altitude, start to drop. Well, at the surface right now, we've got 47 degrees. Now, as you climb and go higher in altitude, as you get to 3,500 feet above the ground, the temperature is 27 degrees, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. But going further aloft, we've got a layer of warm air that is stuck in there. So between 3,500 feet, it goes to 27 degrees, but then it starts to warm up 5 degrees to 7,000 feet. So it's this layer of warmer air aloft that is trapping in the moisture at the surface. Once we start to mix this air, we get rid of this warm layer, we'll start to notice the moisture lifting, and we'll start to see skies clearing. And that is starting to take place already into portions of the state. You got to go west of Seward, west of Crete, out towards York, and again the Grand Island, seeing some sunshine today. Now there are some higher clouds beginning to move into the area right now. It's just not those stubborn low clouds that we've had stuck over the far eastern portion of the state. And it goes all the way up towards Sioux City, down through Lincoln and Beatrice and eastward. And you look back out to the western part of the state and we've got much more clearing. Now the clouds have held temperatures down. Around the city, for the most part, we're sitting in the mid 40s right now. Airport getting a little sunshine, so temperatures have popped up to 47 degrees. And as you go further to the west, temperatures start to warm. It's 47 degrees in Seward. It's 46 in Milford. But look at Utica coming in at 49 degrees, and it's 50 in New York, and we go even warmer as you go further west. It's in the 50s in Grand Island and Hastings, and even up to 60 degrees in Kearney. Go further to the east, towards Nebraska City, it's only 41 degrees, so nearly a 20-degree spread from the Nebraska-Iowa state line out towards Kearney. Now, winds remain out of the north-northwest, fairly light today, 5 to 10 miles per hour, but that's still giving a little bit of a wind chill, so it feels like it's just a tad cooler in both Lincoln and in Beatrice. For the rest of tonight, as skies begin to clear, our temperatures will drop. We're not going to drop terribly bad. I think we'll see lows mainly into the low 30s, to, right around to freezing. Now, we may still have a few gusts at times to 25 miles per hour, and that could produce wind chill values in the upper teens to low 20s if you're going out at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Now for tomorrow, Stormcast suggesting a few light sprinkles possible off to the south and west. I think it's a little overdone with the cloud cover. I think we're going to see much more in the way of some sunshine through the day tomorrow. Expect to see mainly sunny skies, and temperatures should be warmer. We'll get highs back up into the 50s and near 60 degrees by afternoon, but winds will be brisk, sustained 10 to make that 12 to 20 miles per hour, with gusts at times to near 38 miles per hour. We're looking for a high of 58 in Lincoln. Lincoln, 58 in Seward, and 58 degrees in Beatrice. And winds tomorrow will be brisk, as I mentioned. They will be gusting at times as we head through the afternoon hours, so don't be surprised or caught off guard by the winds, especially if you're traveling east or west along I-80, because you may have a crosswind or in either direction for sure. Now, the weekend not looking too bad. We'll see 55 on Saturday, 57 degrees on Sunday. I think we'll see a fair amount of clouds around both days, but it's at least not looking too bad. The real warm-up takes place early next week. When we jump into the upper 60s on Monday, we could make it up into the low 80s Tuesday afternoon, but then with that, we'll have a chance for some evening showers and thunderstorms coming into the area, and then maybe just some showers and windy conditions and cooler temperatures by Wednesday of next week, with highs right around 50, and then temperatures really hanging out in the low to mid 50s as we head into the beginning of April. And just in time for April, we get some April showers as well. Some scattered showers possible, mainly in Beatrice and areas to the south for both the April 1st and for April 2nd.
All right, thank you very much, John. Big positive moves on Wall Street today. The Dow gaining around 350 points. NASDAQ is up 269. We'll be right back.
Mainly cloudy skies today, but we will see the clouds breaking tonight, turning clear overnight. We'll see our temperatures into the mid-40s by 8 o'clock, 39 degrees by 10. We'll see lows dropping down into the low 30s by tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you, John, and thank you all for joining us.
World News is next. We'll see you right back here at 6 o'clock. Have a good night.
With the Channel 8 Eyewitness News mobile app, you'll be the first to know. Get alerts about breaking news and weather, all in the palm of your hand.
Seafood is back at Amigos. Everyone gets their favorites, even my picky eaters. And I don't have to cook. But the Baja fish tacos belong to Mama.
Closed captioning on